Yes. Hello. How are you? This is Craig Beck from the stopdrinkingexpert.com website, the website that helps people to escape the loop of problem drinking without willpower, without silly gimmicks, without medication, without rehab, without any of that nonsense. Go and find out how it's done by signing up to today's free quit drinking webinar. I will even give you a copy of my best-selling book, Alcohol Lied to Me, as a gift just for turning up. All right, today, really important one. The title of the video is all about how can I quit drinking? Alcohol is everywhere. So what do you do? How do you deal with it? And I got a great email today from Simon, who's doing the course at stopdrinkingexpert.com. This is a fantastic email, raises some really important points. Hi, Craig. I've just finished day 4 of your quit drinking course. Now, day 4 is really interesting and really important on the course because at day 4, I ask you a question. Basically, what do you want to do next? What do you want to happen next? Do you want to quit drinking? Do you want to carry on? Do you want to cut back? What's going on? And I ask you to give a very honest answer. If you want to carry on drinking, say so. At no point in my course do I order you to stop drinking. At no point do I say, right, now's the time you quit drinking. That will always be your decision, because it's not about whether I want you to stop or, it's not about you following orders. I want you to get to the point where you say, you know what, I'm absolutely sick to death of this poison. I do not want it anymore. That's how this works so well. So Simon says the 3 choices at that point is interesting. He said he's chosen to quit. I know life is infinitely better without alcohol. I completely agree that moderation is far harder than abstinence, and he's right. This being said, I'm faced with a potential dilemma. Unfortunately, the industry within which I work often seems to revolve around alcohol. Business development activities are either ale trails, pub crawls, going to the races, catching up over a few beers, wine tasting evenings, pub quizzes, day at the cricket that will invariably revolve around glugging pints, etc. So it's not the decision to quit drinking that worries me per se. That's become a no-brainer. It's rather the constant explanation as to why I'm not drinking. People looking at you as if you're odd for making that choice, having to justify the decision as if you're the weirdo for not drinking. I appreciate this behavior is often about other people justifying their own drinking. Nonetheless, constantly having to explain why I'm not drinking can be exhausting. It's particularly cumbersome when in the company of the alpha male type who make out drinking to be the macho and extreme. Now, I know a career change is in theory an option, but I'm 18 years into this career and I'm relatively successful. The actual day job is rewarding. I have a young family to provide for and a mortgage and bills to pay. So deciding on a career change, I would argue, is risky. I wonder if you've come across this dilemma. I'm assuming you must have. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. Kind regards, Simon. Great email. Fantastic questions, important point. And yes, of course, I've come across this dilemma, not only in the hundreds of thousands of people I've helped over the last 13 years, but myself personally. And I know exactly where you're coming from and what you're talking about because I used to work in the media industry. I used to run radio stations in the United Kingdom, and I was constantly being wined and dined by the record industry, the music industry, taken down to London, plied with alcohol, treated to 5-star hotels, red carpets, premieres, all that sort of stuff, because they wanted me to play their records on my radio stations. They wanted me to play their artists and support them. So they would get us drunk so we were nice and pliable and then ask us the question, any chance of playlisting this song? So I understand what it feels like to work in that environment. And also radio stations, we used to, celebrate our successes with alcohol. We get drunk on the company. And when I stopped drinking, my team, quite a few of them were quite, alpha males, very confident, strong guys. And they were not at all happy that I was no longer drinking. And they said some absolutely ridiculous things to me. One of them even suggested that I was now gay. His conclusion, which is a bit like saying 2 + 2 = 47, his conclusion to my behavior was, oh, well, you must have turned gay. I mean, that is so ridiculous. I don't know where to start. How does a health decision dictate your sexuality? I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all, because it's not like gay people are synonymous with sobriety. It's not like, when you say gay, the next word you say is, oh, sober. It doesn't make any sense to see someone who's now sober and go, oh, you must be gay. It's just garbage. But then isn't that the epitome of this problem? That we live in this bubble of unreality where we all tell these lies to each other, and we all know they're lies, but we've all collectively agreed not to mention that they're lies. Alcohol makes you relax. Alcohol helps you chill out. But also at the same time, it helps you party and fills you with energy. How is that possible? How can a simple drug that's made from the rotting discharge of decaying vegetable matter be so smart and intelligent that it can do two polar opposite things at the same time? How can it lift you up and give you energy and help you chill out and relax at the same time? It doesn't make any sense at all. How can a mild anesthetic make a party go with a swing? It's all crazy. How can drinking poison be good for your heart in any sense? That's just nonsense, right? So, yeah, we live in this kind of weird world, don't we? So, how do you deal with the stigma of not drinking? And like everything else in life, and like everything else with this drug, this is purely and simply about mindset. This is about body language, it's about confidence, it's about who you are as a person. And we tend to give this more, we give alcohol more power than it's due. We feel like we have to defend our actions with alcohol because it's so ingrained. We feel like, when someone says, oh, why are you not drinking? We feel like we owe them an explanation. But we don't. We don't owe them an explanation, and it's none of their business. And if you think about it, just change the subject, change the subject matter. Why aren't you eating meat? Now, do you feel like you owe them an explanation as to why you're not eating meat? And in fact, let's make it even more benign than that. Let's just say you go to the restaurant, they hand you a menu, and you're with a guy, and he picks the steak, but you go for the pasta. And he thinks that's ridiculous. You go, well, you had the choice of steak and you went for pasta. Why are you not having the steak? What's your answer? Because I didn't want it. That's the end of the conversation, isn't it? Because I don't want steak. I wanted pasta. End of the conversation. If he then went on, but why? Why no steak? You'd think, geez, what's wrong with you? I chose pasta. Get over it. And that's exactly what's happening with alcohol. And this is about your mindset, Simon. This is not about, them. And I know what you're saying here. I know what you're saying, that, the alpha males around you are going to demand an explanation, but they can demand all they want if you're solid in your belief. If this is who you are as a person, then you don't owe them an explanation. You feel like you do, but you don't. And there will be other, I bit my tongue. There will be other subject matters that are no-go areas for you, right? And if they, let's say you're very religious, okay? You're a practicing Christian, you go to church every Sunday, your faith is really important to you, but it's a private matter. You don't talk about it. It's just something that's really important to you. It's private. And you meet someone who questions your faith and you don't want to talk about it. Would you feel compelled to join in the conversation? Or would you just say, let's not talk about that now. Let's talk about something else. And if they pushed you, wouldn't you think, why are you being an asshole? Why? I don't want to talk about this. You wouldn't bend to their wishes just because they were pushing you. You just go, I don't want to talk about this. And that's if you're solid in your belief about sobriety, then that's your stance, and it doesn't bother you. And I'm going to tell you what you say to people, and this is all you need to say. Okay? Because you don't want to get into that situation where you're defending What doesn't need to be defended? Why you're not drinking? Oh, I'm on antibiotics from the doctor and they told me, or oh, I'm just having a bit of a health kick, taking a break from it, or anything like that. Because anything like that you say, they will come back with something. They will, antibiotics. Oh, I'm sure you can have one and it'll be fine. Or, oh, I saw something on the internet that actually alcohol doesn't interfere with those tablets. You're fine. Shall I get you one? Health kick. Oh, okay. Hang on a minute. You said you were doing a health kick last month and you're still doing it now? Well, I think you can probably have one. You see what I mean? No matter what you say, they've got to come back. So this, Simon, is what you say to everyone that asks you why you're not drinking. You just say, I don't like the way it makes me feel. Why not drinking? I just don't like the way it makes me feel. That's the end of the conversation. There's nothing more to be said. Because what are they going to say to that statement? Oh, can't you just have one? Well, why would I have one of something that makes me feel bad? Why would I choose to feel a little bit bad rather than not feeling bad at all? That doesn't make any sense. Come on, just have one. No, it makes me feel, I don't like, it makes me feel ill. Well, you used to drink. Yeah, and then it started making me feel ill. I don't want it anymore. I don't drink it. I don't like it. That's the end of the conversation. If they keep pushing you, then don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like you're compelled to go into more detail. Treat it like any other subject. If someone was pushing you to talk about it and you didn't want to, you just say, don't ask me about this again. Now, you will get a bit of a, ooh, what's wrong with you response from some of your closer friends. But you won't get that response every time. It's not like every single time you go, I'm not drinking and don't ask me again. Every time they go, ooh, what's wrong with you? Pretty quickly, they'll get the message that you don't drink anymore. And I can tell you from experience that happens. The first time I went out with my team and I wasn't drinking, about 3 or 4 of the guys gave me a hard time. And eventually I said, stop asking me if I want to drink, right? And I got in their face a little bit and they were like, oh, what's wrong with you? The next time we went out, the guy who called me gay for not drinking went and got a round, didn't even ask me what I wanted, brought me a Diet Coke. No conversation, just accepted it. So this is about you dictating how this goes. All right. You are in control of this. You are managing the story. You are managing the response. And the response you get to this will be a reflection of what you believe inside. Let me say that again, because that's really important. The response you get from going sober will be a reflection of how you feel about that inside. Okay. So if inside you're thinking, oh God, I'm really missing out here. This sucks. I miss alcohol. Wish I was drinking right now. And you go up to someone and they say, why are you not drinking? You will get a response that reflects that. They'll be like, oh, come on, just have one. What's wrong with you? You're not a real man if you don't drink. Come on. If inside you are solid in your belief that I don't want this shit in my life anymore, and that comes across in your tone, your body language, the way you hold yourself, you will see that reflected back. Why are you not drinking? Because I don't want to. Get me a Coke. That's the end of the conversation. And if you manage this right, that's how it will go. So, excuse me. To go back to your email, Simon, it's not necessary to change career unless you work behind a bar. Then maybe, if you change the drug is what I always say. If you were a heroin user and you gave up heroin, it would not be good to hang out in a place where everyone did heroin. That would just be stupid. You are not working in the alcohol industry. It's just that alcohol is pervasive into your industry. So you can control this a bit more. And it is absolutely controllable. It just means that you will have a few initial moments that maybe are a little bit awkward. Perhaps not for you, perhaps for the other person, but you just got to dominate it. If this is important to you, you just got to dominate it. Think about another subject that you're inflexible on. You're solid in your belief. Maybe it's like gun control. Maybe you're very anti-carrying guns, very anti-guns, full stop. You would never have one. You're opposed to them, being carried. You're opposed to open carry and all that sort of stuff. And somebody came up to you and said, "Why aren't you carrying a gun?" There's no way they could talk you around, right? There's no way they'd change your belief, and you wouldn't want to get into a debate about it. You'd say, "Because I just can't stand it. Let's not talk about that. It's a big no-no for me." And that would be the end of the conversation, unless you were talking to a complete sociopath. And in that case, then stop talking to a complete sociopath. That's not going to be an enjoyable conversation, right? So don't worry about it, Simon. It's not as challenging as you think it is once your head is in the right place. And you're only on day 4 of the course. You might have to do the course several times. But when you get to this point where you're 100% solid that you do not want to drink poison for fun anymore, when people ask you why you're not drinking poison, it will sound like a ridiculous question. All right? So I hope that helps. And don't forget, if you do have a question like Simon's or completely different, anything that's challenging you, drop me an email, craig@craigbeck.com, and I will do my best to give you an answer. If you're worried about your drinking, go to the website, stopdrinkingexpert.com. Also, if anxiety, panic attacks, OCD, compulsive behaviors, anything like that is what you believe behind your drinking, then I also have a book called Anxiety Lied to Me that you can get from craigbeck.com. Thanks for watching. See you soon.